Welcome back to Human Design Center. I'm glad that we share a common interest in human design, the science of differentiation, the art of living your life correctly according to your unique design and genetic matrix that sustains it. You have a unique cosmic imprint, and you may start learning about your uniqueness by listening the gates of your chart. Human design is about the chance that we have to diminish the resistance of life, to attract what is correct for each of us and for our own cross of incarnation. Today we are going to break down Hexagram 29, the Abysmal, Perseverance, the deep within the deep. Persistence despite difficulties has its inevitable rewards. Hexagram 29 is part of third trimester of Jupiter, trimester of duality, where we accomplish our purpose through relationships, connections, co-creating in relationships, according to mystical theme, measure for measure. Gate 29 corresponds to God Thoth, the god of the moon, the god of writing, wisdom, and magic. Zodiac sign, Leo. Gate 29 flows within the collective sensing circuitry, which is about past situations or ideas or events, past experience in sensing, about visual perception. It's about sharing from what we felt in the wave. Keyword, sharing. Center, sacral center, that gives the energy for the power of productivity, fertility, vital energy, the response, sexual availability, reproduction. The harmonic gate is number 46, pushing upward, self-determination, forming the generated channel of discovery, 29 with 46, a design to succeed where others fail. The opposite gate is number 30, clinging fire, a gate of desires, in the kingdom of Kali. Aminoacid, valine, relevant organ, sacral plexus sacralis, formed by ventral branches of spinal nerves, S1, 2, 3, S4, and lumbosacral trunk, L5, L4, tarot card associated, the devil, major arcana number 15. Gate 29, in 3RD trimester, in TOTH, forms the channel with gate 46, located in the same third trimester of Jupiter, connecting to Christ archetype. This way, aminoacid valine associated with gate 29 communicates with aminoacid alanine of gate 46, so that the channel of discovery is formed between Thoth and Christ, coming out of their relationship the design of succeeding where others fail. It is relevant for the value and functioning of this 29th gate to observe that amino acid valine is the same for the gates 7, 4, 29, 59, all of them within the castle of the same god Thoth. Valine cannot be found in any other trimester or deity except for Thoth, helping him to have a connection with the moon, to take care of the magic in our life, to get wisdom, to master writing abilities. Valine is one of the essential amino acids, meaning the body cannot produce it on its own and must obtain it from food. It belongs to the branched chain amino acids, BCAAs group, along with leucine and isoleucine. Functions and roles of valine in the human body. 1. Muscle growth and repair. Valine plays a crucial role in protein synthesis, which helps build and repair muscle tissues. It is commonly used by athletes and bodybuilders to support muscle recovery after exercise. 2. Energy production. As a BCAA, valine can be converted into energy during exercise or fasting, making it an important fuel source for muscles. 3. Tissue and organ repair. It contributes to the growth and regeneration of tissues, making it essential for wound healing and recovery from injuries. 4. Mental focus and nervous system support. Valine is involved in the production of neurotransmitters, which are chemicals that help transmit signals in the brain. It aids in maintaining mental focus, coordination, and emotional stability. In addition to promoting muscle growth and tissue repair, another function of valine is its ability to support both muscle coordination and mental strength while promoting an emotionally calm state. It is also key to optimal growth in children. 5. Immune system support. It plays a role in supporting the immune system by helping with the production of antibodies. It is a precursor in the penicillin biosynthetic pathway. 6. Regulation of blood sugar. Valine helps regulate blood sugar levels by promoting glucose uptake into cells for energy production. Deficiency of valine is associated with symptoms such as anxiety, fatigue, muscle weakness, poor concentration, and mental confusion. Excessive intake. Too much valine, usually from supplements, can lead to digestive issues, and in extreme cases, it may disrupt the balance of other amino acids. So, valine is one of 9 essential amino acids. The human body cannot create it, which is why it must be obtained from what you eat. Valine is not hard to get it in your diet by consuming protein-rich food such as grass-fed beef, wild-caught salmon, yogurt, seeds, including sunflower seeds, sesame seeds, flax seeds and chia seeds, and quinoa. Also nuts, like pistachios, cashews, and almonds, just to name a few sources. So, since we've located the gate on the mandala and on the body graph, and we have a general summary of the essential characteristics of gate 29, you also know the benefits of the amino acid associated with the behavior of this placement. You have the elements to keynote the message of this gate. If you have this gate active in your chart, take your time, compose the key phrase of this gate, and feel how it resonates. Leave a comment, share your insights and understandings. Now let's have a look to the energy of gate 29. In human design, gate 29 is known as the Abysmal, the gate of perseverance. The deep within the deep, persistence despite difficulties has its inevitable rewards. It is found in the sacral center and is associated with commitment, persistence, and the power to endure challenges to achieve success. The abysmal refers to something deep, profound, and potentially challenging, a place where true endurance is tested. It represents depth within depth, meaning there are layers of understanding, experience, and persistence required to succeed. This gate carries an energy that keeps diving deep into commitments, even when difficulties arise. Analyzing perseverance as a core theme, remember that the primary lesson of gate 29 is to say yes correctly, meaning committing only to the right things. Those with this gate defined tend to be highly persistent. Once they say yes, they have a deep drive to follow through despite hardships. However, this can sometimes lead to overcommitment to the wrong things, leading to exhaustion or frustration. Persistence despite difficulties has its inevitable rewards. Gate 29 teaches that sticking to something worthwhile, even through struggles, leads to eventual success. This energy does not give up easily and is deeply resilient. The challenge is knowing when to persevere versus when to let go of something that no longer serves you. Since gate 29 is in the sacral center, it carries the energy of life force, work, and sustainability. It operates best when decisions are made from the gut response, sacral authority, rather than the mind. The key is to listen to what truly excites and energizes you rather than committing out of obligation. When gate 29 connects with gate 46, the determination of the self, in the G center, it forms the channel of discovery. This is about fully committing to life's experiences and trusting the journey. People with this channel often learn through experience rather than theory. This channel will bring real discoveries in relation to the physical body. So, gate 29 is about mastering the power of commitment, saying yes wisely, trusting the process. Even when things seem uncertain, there is value in the experience. Resilience, pushing through obstacles when aligned with the right path. Knowing when to quit. Not every commitment is worth keeping. Discernment is key. I quote from Line Companion of Ra'uruhu. The 29th hexagram is something very strange. because it says either yes or no to life. It is making the commitment to be alive as a human. It is built into it at its deepest level to say yes. My joke with this is, can I borrow your life? Yes. Can I waste your time? Yes. Can I take all your money? Yes. Can I fuck you up? Yes. It is built into our sacral center to be alive. The 29th gate is constantly reaffirming our commitment to life. It is the deep within the deep. It is our commitment to life, but at the same time, it is the thing that is going to turn off the switch when we die. It is the thing that is going to say, enough, I have had enough now. I will say no now. I am always telling people who have the 29th gate, don't say yes, say wait. Make people wait. The reality is that the yes is built in, but the no can always be there. Above the lines, the deep within the deep. Persistence despite difficulties has its inevitable rewards. This is a very funny language. Persistence despite difficulties. If you say yes to life, you are saying yes to difficulties. This is one of the jokes about being human. Has its inevitable rewards. When? Inevitable simply means that at some point they come, but when they come, you can go through difficulty after difficulty after difficulty, and you are constantly saying yes to life, and all the difficulties are there. What are hidden in this 29 can be the deepest scars in humans. There is no line in here that talks about self-destruction or killing oneself, but everything within the 29 has the potential for suicide. It has the potential to say no to the life process. It has the potential to say no to healing, no to being cured, no to being helped, no to being wanted. All of those things are always possible underneath, and it depends on whether or not they have in the earliest part of their life accepted for themselves the difficulty of what life is. End of quote. Walking through the 6 lines of the Gate 29, it's a process that will bring clarity to you in relation to nuances of the content and expression of the 29th gate. At the end, we will touch upon the crosses of incarnation, where Gate 29 plays its role and become part of the purpose. Let's see the 6 stages of development of this energy and possible dualism in its manifestation. Gate 29, Line 1, the draftee. The ability to adapt to struggle when necessary, but not as a permanent state. In human design, the first line of a gate represents its foundation, how it begins, learns, and interacts with the world. For Gate 29 1-1, the draftee, the theme is the ability to adapt to struggle when necessary, but not as a permanent state. Let's break this down. 1. The draftee. What does it mean? A draftee is someone who is chosen or required to serve, often in a military or survival situation. This suggests a sense of duty, endurance, and adaptation to challenges that may not have been voluntarily chosen. 2. The ability to adapt to struggle when necessary. People with Gate 29.1 are naturally resilient and can handle difficult situations when they arise. They can commit to something challenging and push through struggles, finding ways to survive and grow. They understand that struggle is sometimes necessary for progress. 3. But not as a permanent state. This means that struggle is not meant to be their default way of living. They need to learn when to let go instead of continuing to push through unnecessary hardship. Staying in struggle too long can lead to burnout, exhaustion, and frustration. In real life, you must say yes wisely, choosing challenges that are worth the effort. You can handle struggle, but you should not identify with it or make it a lifestyle. Learn to know when to move on. If a situation is no longer aligned, you must have the courage to let go instead of just persisting blindly. From Rauruhu, in Line Companion, we have some valuable explanations. I quote, the first line says, the draftee. The foundation of this hexagram is the ability to adapt to struggle when necessary, but not as a permanent state. In other words, make your commitment, but don't make that commitment for life. Make your commitment to the experience, just to the experience. It is the experience that gives us the ultimate growth and value in the SATS process. That is why when people are really down, if they find something that they really like to do, that they can commit themselves to, suddenly they begin to blossom. But without that, without being drafted into the experience, they simply continue to go through their process saying, "Can I really continue to say yes to this commitment to life?" End of quote. Mars exalted. The innate nature to apply energy in times of war and peace. The power to persevere when necessary, but not generally. Mars is a planet of action, drive, and raw energy. When exalted, the influence of Mars brings strong determination, courage, and the ability to push through challenges. In Gate 29.1, this means knowing when to use energy and when to hold back. Breaking down the message in practical terms, we come to the first theme. 1. The innate nature to apply energy in times of war and peace. This line has a built-in instinct to engage fully when necessary, but it doesn't waste energy. War represents times of struggle when perseverance is required. Peace represents times of rest, knowing when not to push. This means not every challenge requires blind persistence. Wisdom is knowing when to act. 2. Second theme talks about the power to persevere when necessary but not generally. This means that, when the right commitment is made, this person can push through difficulties with great resilience. But they don't just apply effort everywhere. They need to assess whether a commitment is truly worth it. The key is learning discernment, knowing when to fight and when to let go. In real life, this placement plays out in so many ways for people that have this in their chart. They don't waste energy on meaningless struggles, but when it's necessary, they can persist through anything. They know when to push forward and when to step back. Thus, they must be careful not to commit to the wrong battles, or they'll drain their energy on things that don't matter. Their biggest lesson is to only say yes when it truly aligns. Otherwise, they risk unnecessary struggles. Remember, Mars exalted knows when to fight and when to rest. The power lies in choosing the right commitments and persevering only when necessary. Align with Mars to take the benefits. Ra Uru Hu, about Mars exalted, I quote, "The innate nature to apply energy in times of war and peace. Bless young Mars. Mars says, yes, I don't care how difficult it is. I have the energy and the power, and I will do it." That is Mars at its best. I am here to be alive. I am here to grow up, says the child Mars. Give me a chance to grow up. The whole thing about the 29 is to understand that the experiential way, like any way, takes time. Everything takes time. To be well in this life, to be at peace in this life, to come to grips with what it is to be you in this life, it all takes time. That is what I tell people when they come to design. You have to work with this awareness and knowledge for 7 years before it really is going to be a part of you, just so it can get down to the cells, just so you can continue that process. End of quote. Neptune in detriment, a deep impressionability whose mark from times of struggle may make a return to normal conditions extremely difficult. Hesitation in making commitments based on past experience. Neptune is the planet of illusion, dreams, and deep emotional sensitivity. In detriment, the influence of Neptune's energy can be clouded, uncertain, or overly influenced by past experiences. This placement makes commitment feel uncertain because past struggles leave deep emotional imprints. 1. The first theme, a deep impressionability, whose mark from times of struggle may make a return to normal conditions extremely difficult. This means past struggles leave a lasting impact, making it hard to move on even when circumstances improve. If they've experienced failure or difficulty, they may carry that energy forward, fearing it will happen again. There can be a sense of heaviness, as if past battles still linger in their system, making them hesitant to trust new opportunities. 2. Second theme is about hesitation in making commitments based on past experience. Instead of freely committing, this person may overanalyze, hesitate, or avoid saying yes because they fear repeating past mistakes. They may struggle with trusting life again after hardship. This can lead to missed opportunities or a tendency to play it safe rather than take necessary risks. This placement is about fear of commitment, when people may second-guess their choices, delaying action. Also, it brings emotional weight of the past. They carry past struggles forward, making it hard to embrace new opportunities. People with this placement will learn to trust again. Their biggest lesson is to heal from past difficulties and trust that not every experience will be the same. They must learn to commit despite fear and recognize when hesitation is valid versus when it's just a lingering fear from the past. You will learn in time that your past does not define your future. Learn from struggles, but don't let them keep you from saying yes to the right opportunities. From Line Companion, I quote the words of Ra Uruhu regarding this placement. Neptune in detriment. The great mask of Neptune is dropping in here. A deep impressionability whose mark from times of struggle may make a return to normal conditions extremely difficult. When you have a child that has the 29.1, it will either go one way or the other. They are either going to have this wonderful depth of energy to say, yes, it is difficult, but life is life. Yes, the experience is hard, but I'll go through it. Or the other side in which the experience comes, and they are shattered in it. In that moment of shattering in the experience, it becomes more and more difficult for them to commit themselves again to a new experience. The child falls into a pool, unable to swim, and it is a 29.1, the deep within the deep. If the child pulls itself up, and it can, that child is always going to be able to fall into a pool of water. But for the child that has to be grabbed by somebody else and dragged out of that pool gasping, it is going to take a lifetime for that being to go back into the water. This is the nature of commitment. Commitment is not just about saying yes. It is about recognizing that whatever you say yes to is going to present all those difficulties, and the moment you get stuck on the difficulties is the moment that you lose this magical Martian love and lust for life. That is the beauty that can lie here, but this is also the pain that can be on the other side. In the White Book, the power to persevere when necessary but not generally, and the detriment, hesitation in making commitments based on past experience. No, I don't want to try that. I can't do that. Come on, you can. No. End of quote. Gate 29, Line 2, Assessment. Persistence tempered by caution. In human design, the second line of a gate is naturally intuitive, projected, and cautious, often waiting for the right opportunities to come to them. 1. About assessment, in this yes man gate. As we know, the second line is naturally gifted but also hesitant, needing external recognition before committing. This means that people with gate 29.2 are careful about what they say yes to. Unlike the first line, which dives into experiences, the second line prefers to pause and evaluate before committing. 3. Then, assessment is about persistence tempered by caution. Persistence. Like all lines of Gate 29, there is a strong drive to commit and follow through once the decision is made to be persistent. Tempered by caution. However, this line brings a natural hesitation, a need to be sure before jumping in. This energy is about learning from past experiences and avoiding unnecessary struggle. So, in real life, people with this placement do not rush in. Unlike those who blindly commit, they take time to assess before saying yes. They trust their instincts. They have a natural intuitive knowing of whether a commitment is right for them. They avoid unnecessary struggles, meaning that they won't persist just for the sake of it. They commit when it truly aligns. For this line, indeed, caution can lead to opportunities. Their discernment attracts the right offers, as people recognize their wisdom in knowing when to commit. People with Gate 29.2 will have the right opportunities to learn the essence of this line, that not every yes is worth it. Choose commitments wisely, and persistence will lead to rewards. Ra Uruhu says that the first line has the capacity for introspection and recognizes that it can say yes and make a commitment. They have seen that this commitment can lead to a continuing process of growth. After all, this is the channel of discovery, a channel of succeeding where other people fail, or failing where other people succeed. This is one of those things to keep in mind about the nature of that commitment. When you come to the second line and you are coming to the projection, these people are projecting out that they are always ready to say yes. Come and ask me. I am ready to say yes. Persistence tempered by caution. The caution is that we are dealing with the lack of introspection because it is projection. So, although the capacity is there to project out that they are ready to be persistent and that they have the power to be persistent, they do not really know whether that power is there. The caution is not a mental caution. It is not an awareness caution that says, aha, I have to be careful about where I put my energy. This is just power. Sun exalted, the power of sustainment as a guiding light, saying yes, and the power to persevere. Let's think about the influence of Sun exalted in this line. The sun represents core identity, purpose, and vitality. It illuminates and empowers whatever it touches. In exaltation, it brings strength, confidence, and a natural ability to inspire others. Here, it enhances Gate 29.2's ability to commit and follow through with endurance. 1. The power of sustainment as a guiding light. In practical terms, the meaning of this is about sustainment means the ability to keep going despite challenges. This line serves as an example to others, showing that true commitment leads to success. There is a natural persistence. Once they say it's yes, they become a guiding force, helping others stay on course as well. 2. Saying yes and the power to persevere. The second line is naturally intuitive and cautious, but with the sun exalted, it has a deep trust in its commitments. This means when they say yes, they mean it. They have the endurance to see things through to completion. Their ability to persevere through difficulties makes them a beacon of strength and reliability. From a practical perspective, people with sun exalted in this line, once they commit, they fully invest in seeing it through. They inspire others. Their confidence and endurance motivate those around them. They trust in their yes. They don't just say yes lightly. When they do, it's a sign of true dedication. They are seen as reliable, trustworthy, and persistent, making them great leaders or mentors. The power of sustainment as a guiding light. Saying yes, and the power to persevere. This power is really there. These people project out that they are ready to persevere, but they don't know whether they can or not. It may not work for them. They may be found out. They may not have the necessary resources to persist in that particular experience, whatever it may be. Remember that, with sun exalted here, in second line, your yes is powerful. When you commit, you become a guiding light for others. Choose wisely, and your perseverance will lead to success. Venus in detriment. A tendency to overcautiousness when persistence is perceived as adding to rather than ending disharmony. Caution in saying yes, when perseverance leads to disharmony. Venus represents relationships, harmony, beauty, and values. It seeks connection and balance. In detriment, it struggles with fear of conflict, hesitation, and being overly cautious in order to avoid discomfort or disharmony. This energy can cause indecision, hesitation, or reluctance to commit when the person fears it will create instability. Let's break down the themes of Venus, for a practical understanding. 1. A tendency to overcautiousness when persistence is perceived as adding to rather than ending disharmony. Instead of naturally trusting the process, this line questions whether commitment is the right choice. If they think persevering will make things worse, they will hesitate or back away instead of committing fully. There can be fear of making the wrong choice, leading to missed opportunities or an avoidance of necessary challenges. 2. Caution in saying yes when perseverance leads to disharmony. Unlike the sun-exalted version of this line, which fully embraces commitment, Venus in detriment makes the person second-guess their yes. They don't want to persist in something that could disrupt peace, so they may hold back. This can be wise at times, preventing unnecessary struggle, but can also cause missed growth opportunities when fear leads to avoidance. When you use the energy of this placement in real life, it can be about hesitation before committing. You feel uncertain if commitment will bring harmony or chaos. Avoiding unnecessary struggles. You are sensitive to conflict and will back out if you feel perseverance will only create problems. Fear of disharmony. You may overthink your choices, fearing that saying yes will disrupt balance in your life. You need to learn trust. Your lesson is learning to commit when it's right, not just avoiding commitment out of fear. Don't let fear of disharmony stopping you from committing to the right things. Trust your inner knowing. Some struggles are worth it. From Line Companion, we have the following explanation. I quote, Venus in detriment. A tendency to overcautiousness when persistence is perceived as adding to rather than ending disharmony. Here comes Venus again, stepping in with this additional interactive social quality and making the process more difficult by being there. Somebody comes up to the 29.2 and says, "Do you want to try rollerblading?" And they say, "Yes." They are always ready to say yes. They will always project out their yes, and then somebody who is close to them says, "Yeah, but that costs a lot of money, and people get broken legs, and it does not really work, and I do not really want you to do that around here." If that is somebody who is important for them, that they want to have as their friend, or somebody with whom they want to have a harmonious relationship, they are likely to be much more cautious and restrained in that. In other words, they get found out because they discover in the moment that somebody makes a comment about it, and they do not really know if they have the resources. They can suddenly become cautious about that. Always built into all of the lines of the 29 is this holding back from making the commitment. But usually it is the product of having had a difficult experience in life that does it, rather than common sense, or rather than awareness that says, yes, I have to be careful about how I use my energy and what I commit it to. The caution in people who say yes comes from people who got burnt. Water does not like fire. These people can always get burnt from the experience. They can always suffer from the experience and say, I can't do that anymore. I can't take those kinds of chances anymore. I can't commit myself to those kinds of things anymore. They become more cautious, but not because they are aware. The difficulty of the experience is something that becomes a burden for them because they don't know whether they have the resources for it. End of quote. Gate 29, line 3, evaluation. In this context, properly assessed inaction. In human design, the third line is highly experimental, trial and error based, and adaptive. People with a third line energies learn by doing, through making and correcting mistakes. 1. What's the message of evaluation as core meaning of this line? Unlike line 1, jumping into struggle, or line 2, hesitating with caution, line 3 is about testing and refining through experience. It is constantly assessing whether a commitment is worth continuing or if it's better to step back. 2. Properly assessed inaction. Properly assessed. This means taking the time to evaluate a situation before making a decision or not. Inaction. Instead of rushing into commitments or blindly persisting, This line understands that sometimes the best decision is to do nothing at all. So this line is about learning through experience. People with gate 29.3 often make trial and error decisions before finding what works. They know when to step back, meaning that they don't need to say yes to everything. Sometimes waiting or quitting is the wisest choice. The third line, avoid unnecessary struggles. Unlike gate 29.1, which tends to endure hardship, this line knows when to cut its losses. They know the value of testing boundaries. They may go through phases of overcommitting and withdrawing until they learn the right balance. The third line will learn to be aware that not every commitment needs to be followed through. Evaluating before acting prevents unnecessary struggles. In Line Companion, Ra Uruhu said that, by the way, properly assessed inaction does not mean that that is how they start their life. They have to learn that from experience. They are going to be less likely to jump in and say yes, but nonetheless, they will. They have to learn from experience so that genetic attribute of them can be triggered properly. End of quote. Mars exalted. Despite the urge and cost of inaction, the knowledge that it is sometimes better to fight another day. The power to wait. Mars is the planet of action, drive, and determination. When exalted, it represents controlled power, knowing when to act and when to hold back. This brings discipline, allowing one to resist impulsive action when waiting is the better choice. 1. Despite the urge and cost of inaction, there is a strong desire to act, to commit, push forward, and do something. However, this line understands that action isn't always the best move. Even when inaction feels frustrating or comes with a cost, missed opportunities, delays, etc., patience is sometimes the smarter path. Ross said in Line Companion that you have to learn that sometimes it's better to fight another day, but not necessarily. These people will make their mistakes. They have to go through that process. 2. The second theme of this placement, the knowledge that it is sometimes better to fight another day. Well, not every battle needs to be fought immediately. There is wisdom in picking the right timing. This is about strategic perseverance, knowing when to step back and conserve energy rather than waste it on something premature. It's a lesson in trusting the right timing rather than forcing things to happen. 3. The power to wait represents the ability to hold steady, resist pressure, and trust that waiting will lead to a better opportunity. Patience becomes a strength rather than a weakness. This makes for a wise and resilient person who doesn't give in to impulsive action, but instead moves with clarity and purpose. So, in your life, this placement is about resisting pressure to act too soon. Even when others push for immediate action, they know when it's best to wait. Avoiding unnecessary struggles because they don't waste energy on battles they can't win or situations that aren't ready. Strategic timing, since they trust in the right moment to say yes rather than committing impulsively. Asti, mastering self-control, when they have strong willpower, able to delay gratification for a greater reward later. The key lesson for Gate 29.3, with Mars exalted, is that true strength isn't just in taking action. It's in knowing when to wait for the right moment. Patience leads to greater success. Ra Uruhu explains this placement. I quote, "The power to wait. You see Mars there. You have to wait until Mars is about 40 years old. Mars has to grow up in order to wait. I am an Aryan, I know that. When the mistakes have really been heavy, there is this, wait a minute now, shall I do this? For so long, I taught you to really just see this mechanism of saying yes, because that is how it operates at the mundane level. At the mundane level, people will always go through this process because the fact is that you have to go through that process if you have this gate. But you will always meet the difficulties of life, and in meeting them, there are only two ways to go. This is the deep within the deep. What is at the other end? The other end is the love of the body, the 46th gate. The magic of this channel, the 4629, is to discover the magic of what it is to be in form, what it is to be in a body in this life, and what it means for this body to move through this life. This channel can be deeply profound because of that, and because this is the love of being alive in the body, and that is what all this commitment is about, to be committed to the life process. But you don't know, because on the other end, the 46, pushing upward, is in the kingdom of heaven. In the old I Ching, you have to come from the deep within the deep, and you have to go through all this stuff until you finally get up to the kingdom of heaven, and you discover, wow, this machine is really great. Not everybody gets to that place, and it is not because of this line or anything else. It is about the nature of what it is to be human and to be unaware. If you are human and unaware, you do not like yourself and you dislike the wrong person because it is not you that you do not like, but your conditioning and what you have become. You do not get a chance to see the magnificence of that. Everybody who stands in front of a mirror has a complaint about the nature of their form. We do not accept the magnificence of what that is. We complain about it. We would like to get out of it. I have so many people who come up to me and say, I astral project. I live here in my body in this life. This is the magic of the 29th gate. Until you can accept the beauty of what it is to be in form, there is no experience in life that is worth having, because otherwise it is just pain and difficulty and a struggle. It is the work of life, this tough, heavy world. We are lucky people. We are privileged to live in a society where there is wealth and relative freedom. The world is filled with horrors. Yet at the same time, we still have this, well, I need to fix this. I have to make this or that better. I don't like what I see. This is loving what it is to be in these bodies. They are beautiful. For me, Buddha was crazy. All he wanted to do was to get rid of the body and get out of it. This is where we belong. This is what the 29 has to come to recognize. Aha, it is supposed to be like this. This is the glory of what it is to be human. End of quote. Jupiter, in detriment. A preference for withdrawal in principle with little regard for effect. The inability to make commitments. The power of caution. Jupiter is the planet of expansion, opportunity, and optimism. When in detriment, its natural ability to say yes to growth and abundance is restricted or misapplied. Instead of taking opportunities, this placement leans toward withdrawal and hesitation. 1. A preference for withdrawal in principle with little regard for effect. This means there is a natural tendency to pull back and avoid commitment, regardless of the consequences. Instead of fully engaging with life's challenges, the person may choose inaction or avoidance. They may retreat from opportunities without fully considering how it affects them or others. 2. The inability to make commitments. Unlike other lines in Gate 29, which focus on perseverance, this one struggles to say yes at all. There is hesitation, fear, or doubt that prevents full engagement. The person may second-guess themselves or feel like they can't trust their commitments. 3. The power of caution. On the positive side, this caution can prevent rushing into the wrong commitments. However, too much caution can lead to missed opportunities, isolation, or indecision. The key is learning when caution is helpful and when it's just fear holding them back. When you have this placement in your chart, you might have observed in real life that this is about struggling with commitment. For example, when you hesitate to say yes and may frequently withdraw from opportunities. You prefer to avoid risk and not to engage if you aren't 100% sure about the outcome. Fear of making the wrong choice. This can lead to paralysis, never fully moving forward. You have to recognize your need for balance. Learning to distinguish between wise caution and unnecessary avoidance is essential. You need to learn in time that caution is wise, But don't let fear of commitment keep you from experiencing life. Learn when to say yes to the right things. Ra Uruhu has his own way of explaining Jupiter in detriment. I quote, "In the White Book, the inability to make commitments, the power of caution. That power of caution means that these are people that are not ready to commit themselves to experience, and because of that, they can become very weak. Their bodies can become weak. On the mundane level, their bodies do not get the necessary exercise, the necessary process of getting involved in the experience to do the things to keep it going. It all comes down to this whole business about whether we can accept that these are our vehicles and that they are perfect. Everybody gets exactly the model that belongs to them. So much of that deep philosophy is what is rooted here in the 29th hexagram. That is why it is both the commitment to life and the commitment to death. I don't like this model. I will not fix it. I'll just let it die. I will let it fall apart. That is the other side of the 29. I don't love this body. This gate is not aware. It is just energy. Everybody thinks that the discovery of succeeding where others fail is about what they do, but it is about how you live in the experience of yourself. It is about the acceptance of form, and this is the only mystical possibility for abstract people. The only mystical potential for anyone who is abstract is here in this channel. It is the acceptance that one is in the right place at the right time, and that begins with your body." End of quote. Gate 29, line 4, directness. The shortest distance between 2 points is a straight line. In human design, the 4th line is about stability, influence, and external connections. Unlike the trial and error energy of line 3, line 4 prefers direct, reliable, and efficient approaches when dealing with commitments. 1. The basic theme, directness, means that this line values clarity and efficiency in commitments. It doesn't waste time overthinking, testing, or hesitating. It wants the quickest, most effective path forward. Once committed, it seeks to complete the journey with focus and determination. 2. The shortest distance between 2 points is a straight line. This reflects the no-nonsense practical approach of this line. Unlike other lines that may hesitate, line 2, struggle, line 1, or experiment, line 3, line 4 wants to get things done as efficiently as possible. It thrives on commitment that is straightforward, honest, and productive. No unnecessary detours. The life of these people is about clear commitments. Once they say yes, they follow through with determination. No drama, no detours. They dislike wasting time on unnecessary complexity. This line influences others. Since line 4 is social and network-oriented, their directness can inspire others to act. It's also about the need for stability. They commit best to things that are stable, clear, and aligned. They dislike uncertainty. It is essential for you to commit to what is right, stay focused, and take the most efficient path to success. Ra says that when you come to the 4th line, you come to the upper trigram, and you have the recognition now that heaven is there. The 1st to the 3rd line do not know that. All they know is the deep within the deep, the pressure of all that water, and the weight of what it is to live in the world, carrying the world around. In the first 3 lines, you meet the most serious people in the world. The 29.1, 2, and 3 can be so damn serious that it is frightening. There is no laughter in all of that. There is the deep recognition that this body has to deal with all kinds of difficulties in moving through the world, and it ain't necessarily a nice trip. When you get to the 4th line, it is like, oh, there is a sky above. The ability to look across the channel is quite different. It says, directness. The shortest distance between 2 points is a straight line. That is where I am going, straight up. I am getting out of this water. I am getting out of this way. I am going to triumph in this process. End of quote. Saturn, exalted. The wisdom to use the simplest and most direct approach to solve difficulties. The power to commit oneself to the simplest and most direct process. Saturn represents discipline, structure, and wisdom gained through experience. When exalted, it brings clarity, patience, and the ability to make wise, practical choices. This energy supports commitment to efficient, no-nonsense solutions. 1. The wisdom to use the simplest and most direct approach to solve difficulties. This line has a natural gift for cutting through complexity and finding the most efficient solution. Instead of overcomplicating things, they trust in clarity, structure, and simplicity. When faced with challenges, they don't waste energy on unnecessary steps. They go straight to the heart of the issue. 2. The power to commit oneself to the simplest and most direct process. Once they say yes, they commit to the clearest and most effective path forward. They have a strong sense of discipline, ensuring they don't get distracted or take unnecessary detours. This gives them a reputation for being reliable, focused, and solution-oriented. In summary, this placement is about efficiency. First, they avoid unnecessary complications and focus on getting things done in the simplest way possible. Clear commitment. When they commit, they stick to a structured and effective plan. Wise problem solving. They don't get lost in confusion. They trust the simplest path to success. Strong leadership. They often guide others by showing them how simplicity and direct action lead to results. Indeed, it's a valuable lesson to commit to simplicity. Avoid unnecessary complexity and trust that the direct path will always bring the best results. About Saturn. Exalted, here are the words of Ra Uruhu. I quote, "The wisdom to use the simplest and most direct approach to solve difficulties." Now we have the theme of difficulties, which is at the top of the lines. Now, for the first time, we have a confrontation with the difficulties. Here is the ability to be fixed in your persistence and go right through the difficulties. You go through the difficulties with Saturn, which means that you have to be disciplined. There has to be a great deal of restraint within you to be able to go through those difficulties, but it is there as a potential. In the White Book, the power to commit oneself to the simplest and most direct process. This is a wonderful energy, very fixed. I have to persist. I said yes, and I will go through it. I will get to the place that is on the other side. End of quote. Mercury, in detriment. Simplicity and directness all too often seen as inharmonic and aesthetically crude. The power of directness often offends others. Mercury rules communication, intellect, and expression. In detriment, its natural ability to communicate clearly and harmoniously is challenged. It may come across as blunt, tactless, or disruptive. Instead of making things easier, directness can create friction with others. 1. Simplicity and directness, all too often seen as inharmonic and aesthetically crude. The person naturally prefers clear, straightforward solutions, but others may perceive this as harsh, lacking tact, or too abrupt. What they see as cutting through the noise, others may see as lacking grace or diplomacy. Their way of thinking and communicating may feel too raw, too unfiltered, or even socially inappropriate to some. 2. The power of directness often offends others. They don't sugarcoat things, they get straight to the point. While this can be refreshing and effective, it can also rub people the wrong way if they are more sensitive or prefer a softer approach. This can lead to misunderstandings, resistance, or conflict, even if their intentions are good. Mercury in detriment is about unfiltered honesty. They say things as they are, sometimes without realizing how it affects others. Effective but blunt. Their direct approach gets things done, but it may lack finesse. Misunderstood at communication. They struggle to be seen as tactful, even when they mean well. Needing to balance directness. Their challenge is to find ways to communicate truthfully without alienating others. As a conclusion, honesty and efficiency are strengths, but consider how your directness impacts others. Find a balance between clarity and sensitivity. On the mercurial side, Ra Uruhu said, simplicity and directness, all too often seen as inharmonic and aesthetically crude. In the White Book, the power of directness often offends others. Get out of my way. I am going this way. This is my experience and I am fixed on it. I am not fixed on your experience. I don't want to share it with you. Don't take me away from my process now. I will go through my experience. Collective people who do not share are always considered rude. This is just one of the jokes of being a collective person because you are expected to share. End of quote. Gate 29, line 5, overreach. The tendency to bite off more than one can chew. In human design, the fifth line carries a universalizing, leadership, and projection energy. It is often seen as trustworthy and influential, but it also carries expectations and pressure from others. The core meaning is overreach. This line has big ambitions and often takes on more than it can realistically handle. There is a tendency to overcommit, believing that persistence alone will lead to success. However, this can lead to burnout, disappointment, or failure to meet expectations. 1. The theme for overreach line, the tendency to bite off more than one can chew. People with gate 29.5 may say yes too quickly, underestimating the challenges ahead. They often feel pressure to prove themselves or live up to others' expectations, which can lead to taking on too many responsibilities. If they fail to deliver, they may face criticism or disappointment from others. So shortly, this line is about high expectations. People look to them as leaders or problem solvers, which can make them feel obligated to say yes. The risk of overcommitting. They must learn to set boundaries and only commit to what they can realistically achieve. Learning when to say no. Their biggest lesson is discernment, choosing the right commitments instead of too many commitments. Turning pressure into strength. When they balance their energy wisely, they can become highly effective leaders and doers. You learn in time that not every opportunity should be accepted. Learn to say yes wisely to avoid burnout and disappointment. Ra says that the first line tells you the essence, that struggle is there for us, step by step along the way, and we are here to deal with each struggle and go through the difficulties of it in order to achieve our success in this life. When you get to the fifth line, how it is projected upon by the world sees this 29th gate as simply being about overreach or overambition. This is how the world sees the energy to say yes all the time. The overreach is the tendency to bite off more than one can chew. It is projected onto these beings that they have the capacity not only to be persistent, but in their activity, in what they do experientially, to universalize the process. In other words, they can be very valuable contributors, and because they have that capacity inside of them to universalize the value of an experience, the projection on them that they have this capacity brings them into making all kinds of commitments that are not necessarily of value for them, biting off more than one can chew. Here we have a Sun-Earth axis in a line. End of quote. Sun exalted, the sun exalted, where the drive is in the design and not ambition-driven, the uncontrollable drive to say yes. The sun represents core identity, purpose, and vitality. When exalted, it brings pure energy and drive, but not necessarily for personal ambition. It's about following one's true design. This means the person isn't saying yes for personal gain. They say yes because they are wired to do so. 1. The drive is in the design and not ambition-driven. This means that commitment isn't about external rewards or status. It's about being naturally compelled to engage with life. The person isn't chasing success for ego or power. They simply can't resist saying yes to experiences, opportunities, and challenges. They follow the energy wherever it takes them, trusting in life's flow. 2. the uncontrollable drive to say yes. This is someone who almost can't help but commit. They are naturally open, adventurous, and always ready to jump in. Their yes is automatic and enthusiastic, but this can also mean that they overcommit and take on too much. Or they trust in the process completely, sometimes without thinking of consequences. This can be incredibly powerful when they commit to the right things, but it requires wisdom to know when yes is truly correct. About these people with the placement of sun exalted in this line, we can say that they naturally says yes. They are open, trusting, and willing to go all in. They are driven by inner purpose. They commit not because of ambition, but because it feels right. There is a risk of overcommitment. They need to be careful not to say yes to everything, or they may burn out. They have magnetic energy. Their enthusiasm and trust in life attract incredible opportunities. So, your yes is powerful. Learn to discern when to commit fully and when to step back so you don't exhaust your energy. There is this genuine power of saying yes, the uncontrollable drive to say yes. It is a deep power inside to say yes, to commit oneself. Earth in detriment, failed ambition. Saying yes, overextending one's resources, and failing to persevere. The earth represents grounding, stability, and the ability to sustain efforts. In detriment, instead of providing steady endurance, it creates instability, exhaustion, and burnout. This leads to a lack of follow-through, where the person commits to too much and then struggles to sustain their efforts. 1. Failed ambition. This means the person has big dreams, makes commitments, or starts strong but can't always follow through. Ambition alone isn't enough. They need practicality, endurance, and a clear sense of limits to succeed. Without these, projects, goals, or relationships may fall apart before reaching completion. 2. Saying yes, overextending one's resources, and failing to persevere. This is a strong tendency to overcommit, saying yes without fully assessing if they have the energy, resources, or support to sustain it. They might take on too many projects, relationships, or responsibilities, feel exhausted, overwhelmed, or unable to deliver what they promised, lose motivation halfway through, leading to unfinished projects or broken commitments. Instead of succeeding through perseverance, they may quit when things get too hard or resources run out. In your real life, it may be about overcommitting and burning out, meaning that you start with excitement but struggle to maintain long-term consistency. You struggle with follow-through, saying yes too quickly, and then realize you can't sustain the commitment. You may enter into failed projects or efforts. Without a solid foundation or endurance, ambitious ideas can collapse. Think about the need to set realistic limits. Your challenge is learning when to say yes and when to hold back. Don't just say yes. Make sure you have the resources, energy, and commitment to follow through. Success comes from sustainable effort, not just ambition. In Line Companion, Ra talks about the earth in detriment. I quote, failed ambition. In terms of the White Book, saying yes, overextending one's resources, and failing to persevere. That can be devastating. Failing to persevere at its highest level is failing to persevere in life, in this ordeal of coming to accept the perfection of what one is, the beauty of one's form, the process that one is going through. It is not just about saying yes to too many things and having the obvious mundane failures come. So many people with the 29.5 say yes to this and that, and at some point, they cannot provide the resources for all of that. They can't. They begin to break promises. They begin to disappoint people because what they said they would commit their energy to, they can't commit their energy to anymore. When you turn that over and you get to the failed ambition on the other side, this can have the same kind of devastating impact as the experience of falling into the water and having to be saved and having to go through the trauma of that experience. This fifth line, in that sense, raises to another level what it means to make a commitment to this life in this form. Every time that I deal with abstract people, I always try to remind them that this is what their life is about. They are our teachers about the path of experience in life, and they are designed for experience in life. They do not have to chase after everything simply because it is projected on them. The 3.5 spoke of victimization. The people with the 29.5 can be victimized for their capacity to provide resources, victimized by a projecting public that says, "This is the one." The young worker that goes into an office and they carry the 29.5, everybody in that office is burdening them with something. You do the paperwork over here. By the way, I have a job for you over here. The manager behind is saying, "This one has the energy to do anything." Everybody is coming and giving them something to work on, and the 29.5 says yes until they collapse because it is projected on them and they can become a victim of their own power. Again, part of that is, if you do not love your form, you are ready to say yes to anything in order to find it, to see what it is. So much about what it is to fail in life is that the deepest failure is to not love what it is to be you. There is nothing else. In my work, this is the great disease that I see in the world, deep self-hatred. I am a mechanic, and as such, I provide information. I know damn well that even though I am providing information that is amoralistic, that really tells you the truth about what it is to be in these forms, that you are still there thinking, yeah, maybe I can change this. Maybe I can work on this. Maybe I can fix this. Maybe I can be better at this. You have to accept what it is that you are, and not what you think that you can become. There is no becoming. There is what you are. The real failed ambition here is not accepting your form. The moment you accept what you are, you know your own limitations. You know what is there to say yes to and what is there not to say yes to. Then this power of universalization becomes something very beautiful. By the way, biting off more than you can chew, you can talk to Adam and Eve about that. That is the line of Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden. This is what the garden is all about. If you want to look for the deepest spirituality about the descent of man into this quality of life, you look at this fifth line, which is called overreach. Yes, give me that apple. Yes, let me take a bite from the tree of knowledge. But it is not enough, because if you only have a bite, you don't know. And if you don't know truly what it is to be you, you are going to be tormented. Your life will fail inside, the spirit inside. I know so many 29.5 people who have suffered so deeply in their lives by being abused by others because they have this enormous quality to commit themselves to them. They are deeply beneficial human beings to guide us into experience. I have a deep connection to fifth lines through resonance. I really understand the pressure that they are under. As long as they don't accept the nature of what it is to be them, they cannot universalize the wonder of what it is to be in form. As an individual, I can only give you that as an example of the vibration that I put out to you about what it is for me to be inside my body. But I am not a universalizer of that mystical principle, because the universalizer of that is the 29.5. They can universalize the magnificence of what it is to be in this form, instead of being the victims from other people taking this energy away from them. End of quote. Gate 29, line 6, confusion. The state that exists when momentum outstrips awareness. In human design, the sixth line is always about looking ahead, transitioning, and seeking wisdom. It has a role model energy, but it often learns through mistakes and experiences before reaching clarity. Confusion is the core theme. This line experiences uncertainty when it commits to something without full awareness of what it truly entails. It can feel lost or overwhelmed because it moves forward too fast before truly understanding the situation. The state that exists when momentum outstrips awareness. Momentum. You've already said yes to something and things are moving quickly. Outstrips awareness. You don't yet fully understand what you got yourself into. This creates stress, second guessing, and a need to slow down to gain clarity. In your real life, do you say yes too soon? For example, you agree to something before knowing all the details and later realize you're in over your head. It happens to you to feel overwhelmed. The situation moves faster than your understanding, leading to stress or regret. There is a need for reflection, so just slow down, reassessing, and gaining clarity. This is essential to be done before making big commitments. You may find yourself moving from confusion to wisdom. Over time, this line learns to pause before saying yes and trust inner awareness rather than external pressure. In 2 words, slow down, gain clarity before committing. Awareness must match momentum to avoid unnecessary struggles. Ra Uru Hu says, the 6th line is all about transition. The transition here is that the whole concept of commitment becomes something totally different. If you are looking at the circuit and if you are trying to see what the whole circuitry is, the nature of the circuitry finishes after this channel, you get to the 1333, to the channel of the witness, and you get to the essence to what the abstract process is about. It is about the nature of reflecting on the experience that you have been through so that that experience, after you have reflected about it, can then be added to the human library of what experience is. When you get to the 6th line, because of the nature of 6 lines, it is saying, will this experience actually be valuable in the library? Will anybody know about it? Do I really want to know about this? Is it really worthwhile? All of these standard 6th line perspectives. The line is called confusion, the state that exists when momentum outstrips awareness. Because the whole circuit is available, there is the sense of, I am an energy for the 29th gate. I don't know what is going on. I have all this energy to say yes. I have all this energy to go through this process, but I really don't know what is going on. I am confused about what all this is for. These are the people that will always say to you, why do we have to live this kind of life? Why is being a human like this? Why do we have to go through these things? Why must we have this kind of experience in order to live out the human process? There is this great big question that is there. Why? End of quote. Mars exalted, driving blind, and given Mars energy and determination, often blind luck. The power to persevere that makes no sense. Mars represents raw energy, action, and determination. When exalted, it amplifies unstoppable drive and perseverance, often without logic or careful planning. This is sheer willpower in action, pushing forward regardless of circumstances. 1. Driving blind, and given Mars's energy and determination, often blind luck. This means moving forward without clarity, direction, or strategy, yet somehow succeeding. It's about taking action purely on instinct or impulse, even when the path isn't clear. Because of Mars's energy, there's an element of luck involved. Things somehow work out, even if they don't make logical sense. 2. The power to persevere that makes no sense. This is a theme of unstoppable persistence, even when there's no clear reason or rational plan behind it. It's the ability to keep going even when others would stop or question the path. Sometimes, this leads to success through sheer force of will, but other times, it can result in recklessness or chaos. For the real life of people with this placement, Mars exalted in this line is about pushing forward without a clear plan. They say yes and commit, even when they don't fully understand what they're getting into. Success through sheer determination. Luck plays a role, but their relentless energy often helps them pull things off. Chaotic perseverance. They may ignore warning signs and push through when stopping to reassess would be wiser. Fearless, but sometimes reckless. Courage and drive are their strengths, but they need to balance this with awareness. As a conclusion, trust your ability to persevere, but be mindful. Sometimes taking a step back and gaining clarity is just as important as moving forward. Jupiter in detriment. A tendency and confusion to withdraw rather than accept the condition and continue to persevere. The power and confusion to caution rather than saying yes. Jupiter is the planet of expansion, optimism, and opportunity. In detriment, instead of bringing confidence and growth, it leans toward hesitation, contraction, and avoidance. This creates a tendency to pull back rather than push forward, especially when things feel uncertain or confusing. 1. What's the meaning for this theme? A tendency and confusion to withdraw rather than accept the condition and continue to persevere. When faced with uncertainty or a lack of clarity, this person is more likely to step back or give up rather than push through blindly. Instead of trusting the flow of life and saying yes, they may hesitate, overthink, or disengage. This can prevent mistakes, but it can also lead to missed opportunities. 2. The second theme is the power and confusion to caution rather than saying yes. Unlike the Mars-exalted version of this line, which charges ahead blindly, here the response to uncertainty is caution, skepticism, or withdrawal. This can be wise in situations where patience is needed, but it can also become a habit of avoiding commitment altogether. The challenge is knowing when to pause for clarity versus when fear or hesitation is holding them back. So, Jupiter makes you hesitant in uncertainty. When they don't fully understand a situation, they prefer to step back rather than risk commitment. This placement is also about cautious approach to perseverance. Unlike others who might push forward despite the confusion, they are more careful and selective. There is the risk of avoiding growth. If they always withdraw instead of persevering, they may miss valuable experiences and opportunities. When Jupiter is this sixth line of confusion, learn to recognize the need for balance between trusting when it's right to move forward and when waiting is truly necessary. It is obvious that caution is a strength, but don't let uncertainty keep you from saying yes to life. Learn to discern when withdrawal is wise and when it's just fear of the unknown. About both placements of Mars and Jupiter, we have to listen to the words of Ra Uru Hu in Line Companion for an insightful approach of the message of both planets. No matter how we break down a gate with our mind, the words of Ra have the subtle power of awakening. So, I quote, Mars exalted, driving blind and given Mars's energy and determination, often blind luck. Jupiter in detriment, a tendency and confusion to withdraw rather than accept the condition and continue to persevere. These are people that can really step out. They can step out to the point that they can literally give up life. These are the kind of people that start dying just before they really die. It does not matter whether they die by an accident or they get sick, but you know before the time of death that they are already dying, and you can feel the essence of that. These are people that can withdraw in the deepest sense of the word. After all, sixth lines are about the mutative process because it is a transition process. Mutation can be positive and negative. You can get to the most negative level of the sixth line, like Blaze of Glory in the 28.6, and you go burning yourself out into a flaming end. Please understand, it has everything to do with the nature of somebody's individual design and not just the fact that this line may appear in their chart. If you have somebody who, in their design, has other compensations for that possibility, there are ways in which they can go through that and they will be all right. But it is so important to understand that that is there in this level of confusion. The power to persevere that makes no sense. It does not seem to make any sense unless I can see what its value is going to be, though not to me. This is the ultimate impersonal line. My experience has to be of value not for me. It has to be of value for everyone else. These are the kind of people that do not want to do anything unless they can tell you about it afterwards. These are people that go on a vacation and they take 8,000 photographs and you have to go through the whole thing. Now they have videos. They tell you, this was my experience. Isn't it great? This is for you. I want to share this with you. Unless it really appears to be of value, then comes the hesitancy of all 6 lines. The power and confusion to caution rather than saying yes. Please remember that yes can go to many different levels, ultimately to the point of saying or not saying yes to life. It is always there. One of the things that I know but do not teach is the nature of how the 29th gate controls death in our lives. It is so important to recognize that if you have people in your life you are working with, or children in your life who carry this 29th gate energy, that one of the most important things for them to understand is that life is a bitch. It is okay. What to do? It will be difficult. The moment that they really know that, they do not have any false expectations about the heaven at the other end, as long as they understand. These are human beings. These are children that have to be clearly told, life can be hard. You will find that out. But it is okay. You stay with it. You will grow. You will mature. You will get to the other end. By the way, you are perfectly equipped for it. People who are abstract in their design are equipped for the abstract plane. The thing for them to recognize is that everything that is abstract brings crisis, change, and instability, and all kinds of problems. Belief systems that break down. All kinds of things are part of our human experience. These people need to understand that life is difficult, but that does not mean that life is bad. It does not mean that being who you are is not capable of dealing with the difficulties that life offers. The joke, of course, is when you go from the 29.6, you go to the 59.1, and it says, you are confused? You don't know whether your body is worth anything? Go make love to somebody, you fool, and find out how incredible it is to have a body. End of quote. Wonderful. Now let's move on to a different perspective to see how the 29th gate sustains or communicates the purpose of life through the crosses of incarnation that are established when the conscious sun is placed within the 29th gate, 29th hexagram, right angle, cross of contagion 3, consisting of the following gates, 29, 30, 8, 14. People who say yes to new and intimate experiences while looking for fulfillment through commitment, who are able to enter into an experiential process for the sake of experience itself. Your cross carries the energy to say yes. It also carries an enthusiasm for life and is driven to make things grand by marching to the beat. You are here to spread excitement and spread the word about whatever it is that you are passionate about. Your commitment to things is unbounded and fuels the enthusiasm. However, you are here on earth in a physical body and do have some constraints. You need to set some limits to the number of things you say yes to. Make certain you agree only to what you are absolutely passionate about. If you not, you will surely burn out. Juxtaposition, cross of commitment, consisting of following gates, 29, 30, 20, 34. People fixed on saying yes to commitment. They are often sources of inspiration, like the saints who served God until their death. You are here to say yes and be committed to many things. You have a burning desire to agree to everything, and unfortunately, this will likely burn you out. You have the capacity to have extreme devotion and commitment to a cause, and your level of commitment can inspire those around you. Make sure you are committing to something that is truly your passion and follow your human design type and strategy. Left angle cross of industry 2, consisting of following gates, 29, 30, 20, 34. People unaware of their enormous charismatic power, who with the right commitments can persevere and shine. You are here to do things and can find yourself busy all the time. You can be very dedicated to what you do. It is extremely important that you follow your human design type and strategy. It is also just as important that you make sure that what keeps you busy is something that you are passionate about. This passion is not just a vague interest, but a passion that flows from the core of your soul. If you can find your passion and put it in motion, you will be among the most industrious, productive people on the planet. I hope this material is helpful and supporting for the development of your human design knowledge. Please share if you enjoyed listening and subscribe if you want to be notified about any new posting of informative, learning materials regarding human design. Thank you.